But yeah, got you, Psio. We're just live now. We just got live, and so we're speaking to Psio, and he is a numerologist, or what he prefers to call himself is the Arithmystic. And I had the pleasure of having a one-to-one session with him recently, and Emma's also had a one-to-one session with him. And when I spoke to him on the phone, I knew from the moment I spoke to him on the phone that I wanted to interview him to share what he does with you, because there's an ancient Greek aphorism which says, "Know thyself," and I believe that this is a phenomenal way for you to get to know yourself. It's I haven't experienced anything quite like it before. I've seen many different mystics and mediums and stuff, but nothing quite like this, to be honest with you. And what I wanted to do today is interview Psio, but also for him to demonstrate to you what he did with me. So there's a couple of things that I've asked him, and he can do a little demonstration so you can see what numerology is all about, or what the Arithmystic is all about. So I'd just like to speak to Psio himself first and just ask him a few questions as to how he got into this and what it's all about. So if you can give like an example of what it's all about and how you got into it, Psio.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Hi, Steve. Right. Yeah, I call myself the Arithmystic, and you quite rightly said it is numerology. I tend to call it numerolinguistics, which is the language of numbers as opposed to the science of numbers. I've always been fascinated with those blurry in between areas. It's the things that aren't always obvious. So, you go to the coast, you go to the sea, you see the surface of the water, there's something underneath, you're not quite sure. This is a tool that will help you discover what lies beneath the surface. So, numbers. I would never turn around and say to you I was a natural mathematician. I've fallen in love with numbers. Numbers aren't primarily what I do. You don't sit with me and I start talking maths to you. Numbers just become keys to unlocking your own individual code. So, I'm a life coach, I'm a counselor, I'm an analyst, I'm a therapist. But what makes me different from those other types of people is that I work with numbers, not just any numbers. I work with your specific numbers. Okay. And anything that's titled, has a moniker, has a name, will also have a code that is translatable, that is readable, that is interpretable. And that's what I do. My skill set is I read and translate names. And you understand that all words have meanings, names have power. So this is what we're working on. We're working on the names. Now, usually when I'm working with individuals, I'm working with two sets of configuration numbers, a date of birth and a name. And this is how I like to configure it. I like to look at the name as a vehicle through life. And I like to look at the date of birth as your configuration, your coordinates, if you like, coordinates through life, your destiny, your purpose, your calling. So that's what gets you to where you go. So that's your direction, that's the transition you're going in, the direction you're going in. And your name is your vehicle that you embark on this particular journey. And every single letter in your name is a vessel for energy. And this vessel is carrying your skills, your traits, your qualities, your perspectives, your psyche, your conscious, your subconscious, your superconscious. Okay, it's the bit that's what you do, how you feel, and how you impact on the environment and the world around you. That is in a nutshell. How I got into it, it's just a love of the unknown, a love of the mysterious. I've always been around clairvoyance and mediums. My mother is a practicing medium, so I've always been aware and awake to this energy, if you like. My first calling and first love was always astrology, and then it was tarot. And there was this beautiful, romantic, mystical language that was running through tarot, which was astrology, which was this Kabbalistic number system and this Hermetic number system. And that was this uncanny language that I had a massive draw and pull to. And I had this unique gift that it became a very fluid understanding. I don't know how I do what I do. I just do it, and it just works. It's very intuitive. It's extremely instinctive, and I'm very passionate about it, as you're aware.
Yeah, very well. Because when I first spoke to Psio on the phone, it was amazing. Because I like taking notes when I'm listening to somebody. And when I was on the phone to him, I was scribbling like hell with the notes because I was loving the stuff I was coming back. Because when I was on the phone, it was just a brief, well, it was supposed to be in a brief chat, but it ended up being, maybe there was like a full session on the phone. And I was really enthusiastic about it. I think what's so good about when you meet people of like mind like yourself is like you really bounce off each other, and that's what I found with Psio straight away, is that it was really easy to strike up conversation and build a rapport with him, because he's such a personable, he's so personable, he's intuitive, and he kind of he knows you anyway through seeing your name and your date of birth, so he knows how to interact with you, and he uses that to be able to interact with you. I mean, I don't know, this is what I perceived, because he was yeah. Is that something that you do, or is it something that naturally comes to you?
It is part naturally. You can appreciate as well, there are some people that are naturally expressive, and then you get other types that are quite quiet. They're still creative, they're still expressive, they might be just more controlled, more measured, and a little bit more detached, a bit more reserved or refined. But this skill set, it allows me to bypass and access the things and speak about the things that, you could take weeks and weeks of therapy or talking or counseling to get to the bottom of, and I just cut corners. And, we talk about there's no shortcuts in life. Well, there is if you know the right kind of skills. This is why you have some people that are naturally gifted speakers, naturally gifted singers or performers. And that, obviously I bring a lot of those talents and abilities to the table, but it's these insights and obviously the confidence to talk about the things that some people might guess or second guess or dodge or avoid or doubt. I don't. I just trust the energy and the information that's coming through, and I go with it. And, I've been doing this for such a long time now, and I'm quite adept at this particular way of working that it's second nature. In fact, I get out of its way and I let it do it itself. That's just how it works.
It's quite a difficult thing to try and understand, like logically, because I suppose it is logical. Of course it is, because it's numerology. But it's yeah, that's why I wanted to have a living example, like a live example, to show the audience what it's all about and what it does. So I didn't know if you wanted to use you could easily use my name or my my date of birth, or you can use what I've given you, which is some of my companies and stuff, to give an example to the viewers of what this is and what you can do for them. Actually, like quickly before we go on to that, though, I'd like to I believe, like on your website, it's got a lovely little intro. It doesn't say too much, but it's quite mystical in itself, because it just makes you wonder what it's all about. And but I believe that this would make an amazing like TV program. Personally, I think that this, because to my knowledge, I was saying on the other video just now, to my knowledge, it hasn't been done yet. It's something it's an area that hasn't been covered, and you've got that kind of you've got that presence about you, which I believe you could, because of that. I think that was from a TV program, wasn't it? Or was it from?
Well, no, that was it was something that was set up in the Me Hotel in London. And I wanted to just create a little soundbite, because I had some interested parties that were going to take this to the next level. I had some opportunities and I had some options, and I had a gentleman that was representing me that could have taken me in that direction, but as it transpired, other things came about for him, and then I kind of just got caught in the wind, and it hasn't quite happened. But as we're speaking, those things and those fires are back, those irons are back in the fire again. So, it is a question of watch this space. We were looking at doing a pilot, and the guys that were interested in setting me up or working with me were the guys that discovered Dynamo, the magician. So, he was coming to the end of, if you like, his shelf life. They were looking for this next quirky, interesting thing. So I was brought to their attention. I had a sitting meeting with about 5 investors talking about the pilot. But after about an hour and a half talking to these investors, they scrapped the idea of a pilot and wanted to go with a 12 episode series. And me going through numbers, being put in hypothetical situations, working with celebrities in different scenarios, i.e. casinos, race courses. I think personally, I would have been, you should have let me loose in a maternity ward. You should let me loose. And this is what happens. So when I was having my own children, both children, I think I must have taken up all of the midwives, because when they should have been in other places, they were in our room delivering our child, because there I was waiting for my child to come through, and we were talking about numbers and profiling their children, profiling their partners. So this is the strength of it. It becomes really infectious because it relates to everybody. If you've got a name that's Englishly translatable or even Hebrew translatable, it relates. So, you know, it works with people that are from the Orient or the Far East, and they have their own names, but when they converse to Western names, it translates again. So if you've got a working title or a moniker, this will translate. So some of the things that I do name changing. You know, obviously I profile existing names. I do name a lot of children, as you can imagine, a lot of responsibility comes with that. But in this instance, you give me some examples of some company names, some business names, because this is another thing that I do. You know, you don't realize that what you name your company or business will have a very significant bearing on how your business does. And because they'll have an energy of its own, it will have an appeal of its own. And the letters in itself will say quite a bit about the business. So you've given me given me 3 business.
Can I give you another one? Because that is probably more Steve. Because after our one-to-one conversation, we decided together that Steve Roger Phillips was the better name to go out there business-wise. But then my page will now be Steve Roger Phillips Self Mastery. I don't think we did that when we did the one-to-one. So
we did, because I quite like that one.
Oh, you like that one, did you?
That's a mouthful, but I do like it. So you'd like Steve Roger Phillips, and it's double L, isn't it? Double L.
Yeah.
Self Mastery.
That's right.
Right. What I'm going to do that smaller because it's quite a lot in there.
Oh yes.
Steve Roger Phillips. Self Mastery. Right, what I'm going to do, my lovely assistant here is going to hold my iPad over my head so you can actually see me at work, so you can see exactly what it entails.
Awesome.
Okay? So hopefully you can still hear my voice. Please let me know if we lose communication.
This is really showbiz, isn't it? Look, lovely assistant as well. Look at that.
My lovely assistant.
You were made for TV.
Right. So Steve, right. First of all, I'm going to go with, this is called the cornerstone, this first letter. I don't know if you can see that clearly. Can you see that clearly?
It's upside down, so I don't know if...
Okay, the other way. Okay, can you see that now? So
yeah, got you. Yeah.
Cornerstone. So that S is telling me, it's a number 3, so it's telling me very expressive. Yeah, very social, lots of interaction, it's very creative, very flexible and articulate. The T is a 4, the E is a 5, the V is a 6, the E is a 5. We move on to Roger. The R is a 2, the O is a 7, the G is a 3, the E is a 5, the R is a 2. Now, I'm doing these numbers now. This number system is a Chaldean number system. There are about 3 or 4. There's probably a lot more, but there's about 3 or 4 well-known number systems. I use 3 of them for slightly different things. But when it comes to names, this is the only number system that I would ever use. Okay, so this is based on Hebrew. And as you well know, the Hebrew language is a very descriptive language. It's about 175,000 words in its language. When you compare that to the English language, it's got about 250,000 usable words. So it would take about a sentence to describe one Hebrew word. That gives you some idea of how descriptive this language is. If we were talking French now, it would take a paragraph in French to describe one Hebrew word. It gives you some idea of how descriptive Hebrew is. So this is based on the Hebrew language. So the P is 8, the H is a 5, the I is a 1, the L's are 3s, the I is a 1, the P is an 8, the S is a 3. Then we're going along, the S is a 3, the E is a 5, the L is a 3, the F is an 8, the M is a 4, the A is a 1, the S is a 3, the T is a 4, the E is a 5, the R is a 2, and the Y is a vowel in this instance, but it's a 1. So we've got quite a long name here. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to break them all down. Okay, so here we go. Breaking them down. 3, 7, 12, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. So I've already spoken to you at length about the number 23. It's a magic number. It's extremely vibrant. It's exciting. It's very inquisitive. It governs free-flowing information. It's a networking number. It draws brilliant alliances and allegiances to you. So it's a number that will quirk interest. Okay, so this is a very warm, approachable number.
Mm-hmm.
The V in Steve is a people number. It's all about commitment, and it's all about duty, responsibility, accountability. It's a community number. The E's in Steve are all about movement. The T is about foundations, and the 3 is about expressions. So now we're looking at Roger. 9, 12, 17, 18, 19. Let me just double check that. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 17, 18, 19. So those first 2 numbers are extremely powerful. Okay, these are very infectious magnetic numbers. So there you go. We're already talking about your name here. Yeah, Steve Roger Phillips. We went in great lengths about this on a personal level. So you're using your own name. You're bringing that magic to the table. 8, 13, 14, 17, 20, 21, 29, 30, 31, 32. Okay, this is that movement. It's excitable energy, it's restless energy. This is energy that, as long as you don't stand still and procrastinate, you don't overcomplicate things, it's all going to keep fluid. So let's have a look at self now. So we've got 3, 8, 11, 19. See, we like seeing this and we like seeing this. These are independent, these are extremely creative. There are only 9 numbers. So 19 is the alpha and the omega. It's complete. Okay, it's considered extremely fortunate. It's a number for protection and good fortune, and it's a number for it's procreation and creation. This is a number for protection. This is a number for individuality. It's for uniqueness. It's independence. It's innovation. It's self-reliance. It's assurance, and it's confidence. Okay, let's have a look at mastery. 4, 5, 8, 12, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Another esoteric number. This number here governs the written and communicative language. This number is expressive thought, or if you like, thought in action. This governs speaking to large groups. It governs actually like playwrights, script writers, and written performance, music performance. It's a very powerful number. So let's add up all of this energy. We've got 5, 6, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So the expression for this number is the number 15, which then breaks down to a 6. So a 6 is a people number. So if you're dealing with people and it's a people business, that's exactly the kind of number you want.
Beautiful.
The 15 compound makes it govern communication in as much as humor, lightheartedness, youthfulness. It keeps things fresh. Okay, it is an idealistic number, and it's a number based on people and movement. Okay, so it's youthful, it's energetic, it's vibrant, it's exciting, and it governs energetic and movement amongst people.
Wow.
Okay, if we want to go into it a bit deeper, there's a soul to this name. Okay, so we've got 10, 1, 12, 3, 2, 5, 5, 6, 7. 1, 4, 5, 6, 11, 18. Right, this number here, so the heart of this particular name, this particular business name is exciting, it's dramatic, it's confident, it's assured, it's explosive. It's a number for perfection. It's a number to get into the heart of all things. This is a holistic number. This is the humanitarian number. It's extremely passionate. It knows no ends. It is tireless and boundless.
Wow.
Okay. It's a number for creation. Equally, it's a number for destruction. So sometimes you have to understand, you have to destroy and burn things through to create new life.
Okay.
Okay. And then we look at the consonants from this number, this particular name, and we get 7, 13, which becomes 4, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 13, 16, 19, 27, 28, 29, 30. Okay, this is the literature number. This is the research number. 3, 6, 14. And then mastery 4, 7, 11, 12, 13, 4. So now we've got the impact number. This is how others will see it, or how it will reach others, and how it will stand alone. So it becomes 11, 12, 13, 14, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. So this is a number that governs technology, information. It governs people. It governs networking. This is a highly infectious and magnetic number. So this is a great name to work with. It's tireless. It's a number for high standards. It's a number for going for it, no holding back. But it is tireless. There's a lot of, as long as you've got good foundations, good structure, good routines, this is a very exciting and daring name to work with.
Wow, that was phenomenal. And to be honest, that was even better than. Can I say even better? It was amazing when we had the one-to-one together. But that then, when you were doing it in front of me, because you had the book in front of yourself, but when you were doing it in front of me, it was just phenomenal to watch you work in. It's like an artist. But
it is. I often say that. I liken numbers. Obviously, most people liken numbers. There's that pattern between numbers and music and color. They're intrinsically linked with mathematics. And my form of mathematics is basically symbols. It's symbols and patterns and frequencies, and it's symmetrical. It's like you have in music, you have discord and harmonies, and in colors you have those pastels, and then you have those heavy colors. Well, this is how I see numbers. I just see them as like the tide. They flow, they ebb. There's some of them are very heavy and really strong. Some are beautiful and harmonistic, and then there's some that are really discording. So I do see myself, if you have someone who works in a studio with music, like a sound engineer, they all know straight away that what is off, what needs to be introduced, when there's something too loud, when something's being distorted. And I can see numbers that do this very, very quickly. And I've often said, I'm like a people artist. I can see the makeup just numerically, and it all comes together. It's quite simple, really. I suppose really it's quite complicated, but it isn't. I see it as very simple. So when I label things numerically, it's just very, very simple, and that's how I see it. Things should be simple. Life is simple. We're the things that make it complicated, because we have such a vast array of numbers, and all these numbers are doing different things. And hopefully, when you get people that are very in tune, they're very balanced, or they're very aware, and they manage those deficiencies, if you like, or those areas that are discord or heavy, and they can manage these, and they can keep it free flowing without hanging on to things, then you see someone growing and shining. But you get a lot of confliction with people that have got numbers that are in discord or are in disharmony, and they can't let go, and then you have these issues. So this is what I'm always trying to do. I'm always trying to find those kinks and creases, and I'm always helping people to iron them out. But it starts with being aware of them first. Obviously, you can appreciate if you have a set of coordinates that you're born with, they're the coordinates you're born with. There's no changing that. And we're not all like the Queen who has 2 birthdays, but even you have 2 birthdays. The configuration you're born on, that's your configuration. But your name, you and as well as I do. I mean, you're called Stephen or Steve, so you're having two separate energies. You have your first, middle, and last names if you're fortunate enough to have middle names. So you generally have 2 or 3 different energies attached to you. So you can have your first name energy, which is called an essence. You can have your full name energy, or you can have your daily energy, which is usually your first name and surname. And you will gravitate to that main energy, which is just basically your first and surname. But the middle names are always working. There's a lot of people out there that are really uncomfortable with their middle names, but they don't realize or don't appreciate what those names are bringing to the table. That energy is something substantial that they're bringing to the table. So even if you say, well, I never like my full name, I don't like my middle name, I like calling myself this, or I shorten it. If I'm a Michael, I like being called Mike or Mick. Yeah. But if you've got correspondence, if on your driving license it says Mike or Michael, and on your medical certificate or your other registration forms or your financial documents, if it's got that full name, that energy is documented. That energy is part of you, and you will still resonate with that energy. So I work with people that have complicated energies, that have complicated numbers. And where they can't see it, where it's not obvious, and I feel that a name isn't really working for them, it's not working in harmony with them, and it doesn't matter what you say or how you convey it, or what kind of counseling they go, what kind of training they do, or what kind of self-management they're doing, those energies are going to keep fulfilling. They're going to keep repeating and cycling. It's just the way it works. They govern the way you think. They govern the way you act. They govern the way you feel. They govern what you do. And unless you change that, or unless you're aware of it and work with it, it's going to keep on happening. And this is no clearer than when you see people that marry. And I've often used the analogy of marriage because, you know, boy meets girl, generally speaking, boy settles down with girl, they marry, they move in together. There is no difference. There is no change over a period of time. Generally speaking, girl and boy marry at some point. You know, it could be a child on the way. You just think, oh, length of time, let's get married. Now, as is custom or tradition, because it's definitely not legal, it's not necessarily legal that in this country in particular, there isn't anything that stipulates that a woman has to take on a married name. In fact, I would turn and say it's becoming increasingly popular now that women are retaining their maiden names, or double barreling is becoming extremely fashionable, especially in business, especially with women that are in business. And there's a lot of things that are happening here because initially when they're taking on, if they're keeping their own maiden name, nothing changes. That's their energy. So the relationship won't change, but it shouldn't change, and nothing really should change the dynamics, even if children come along. If they double barrel, then there's another energy coming to the table. So the energy will change. Hopefully, they're bringing in a lot more letters that they perhaps may not have, that will change their dynamics in a positive way, hopefully. Now, unless you're marrying the same name, Jones, Smith, Phillips, Evans, unless you're marrying the same name, generally speaking, most names have got a different energy. So women that change their name will change their energy and dynamic. Women have to change according to this. Their thinking will change, the way they feel will change, their motivating factors will change, how they impact on things change, their taste changes, the way they dress changes. You know, they might go from being extremely extrovert to becoming very insular, or insular to extrovert, or, you know, controlling to an escapist or a fantasist. You know, it can work in a number of ways. So that woman's changing. She's changing the relationships. Hopefully she's got quite a bit there to make the adaptation. Some people's numbers are very difficult and they don't adapt easy. Not only are they then adapting, but their partner's also having to adapt because they're changing. So then you get this energy or power struggle, and people are totally unaware that this is going on. This is why they say, well, it must be the pressure of marriage. It must be the pressure of moving in. It must be the pressure of children. It's not. It's usually the name. It's usually the name that changes everything, because as soon as a woman documents that she's this name now, she becomes that person. And often then, if after a long time of marriage, their maiden name was somebody that they used to know, that someone they become very fond of, or, you know, someone they remembered. It goes two ways. It can be the making or breaking. You know, they all say marriage for better or for worse. So it's most obvious and most evident with women that change their names. And you can appreciate that most of my clientele base are women, usually married women or professional women that have gone through this change. Or, you know, again, you know, people that have hit fissures or ruts or blocks, and then they'll call me in. The other thing that affects these things in a really big way is personal cycles. You know, people who are aware of things called biorhythms, where you have a natural energy rhythm, and it's factored in on your mental, your emotional, and your physical states. And I would always say that this basically, we do have a biorhythm, and I call it a numerorhythm, because everyone has a cycle, a personal cycle that runs from the solstice and to the solstice. There are only 9 of these cycles, so every 9 years these repeat. So if you want to know where you are, you go back 9 years ago and you'll see exactly those little patterns, and they'll just replay. So every 9 years, these patterns keep replaying. So, you know, wherever you are, you go back 9 years, it's cyclical. Obviously, each of these 9 cycles has a different energy, has a different interpretation, will have a different theme that is forecastable. So, you know, you get a theme, okay, you know, you've got a particular cycle coming in, that can be identified, you know what you're working with. There's no surprises. You know, some of these cycles are very positive, masculine. Some of these cycles are very feminine, you know, more creative or receptive. Some are cycles for action and for good fortune. Some are cycles are for groundwork, foundations, hard work and effort. Some are about movement and expansion. Some are about home and family and relationships and, you know, community. Some are very personal, a spiritual cycle, a very self-aware cycle. Others are about personal power and self-direction, and then the final one's usually about completion, tying all things up. You know, when you come into these big cycles, there's lots of closure, and there's that old adage, if you don't use it, you lose it. In these 9 cycles, it's all about letting go the things that are no longer serving you in a practical way.
So on that, is there something that is generic, say for example for 2017, you know, so 2017, I'm guessing, would carry its own kind of energy for everybody?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, but they call that a universal year. So, you know, a universal calendar year is 2017. You condense 2007 into a single digit or 2 digits, you get 10. And then you can break it down again, you get 1. So 1 governs new beginnings, new directions, new energy, new starts, initiations, okay, innovation, freedom, personal freedom. Okay, it's a personal energy, it's a newness, it's a youthful energy, it's free, it's pioneering. Okay, so all these things that are associated with the number 1. So that was what that universal number would say. Now, that's not to say there wasn't a collective of the populace that aren't in a 1 cycle, because there are only 9 cycles. Some people will be falling in with the universal year, but equally you could have many people that are in the opposite of that, where it's not about new beginnings for them. This is why it's very difficult. There are a number of specialists that go out there and they talk about the state of the planet and the state of the world. The state of the world as a collective is so mixed up. It's because we're lost and we're mixed up. We don't know where we're going. We're confused. There's too much choice out there. There's too many people saying too many different things. You know, each and every one of us has a personal truth. It is quite simple. You know, but we spend, as a collective, we spend too much time going out of ourselves, worrying what other people are doing, worrying about what others are thinking about us, and then creating this persona, and this trying to, if you like, be palatable and to conform, that we're not being our true selves. We're not living our true lives, or living our true natures, being ourselves, being our song. And this is where the friction's coming in. This is what happens is when you go against the grain. You know what it's like when you go against the grain. Things are going to become difficult, and people experience difficulties in their life because 9 out of 10 times they're going against the grain. You know, they're not keeping it simple. They're not coming home, if you like. There's always too much clutter, pollution, interference, distortion, and you can't. It's crazy. I mean, there's just so much going on around us with technology, with Facebook. Everything becomes so convenient, and it's just too easy. You know, even when you're working, it's so easy to get sidetracked and taken away from the things that are really, really important. So, you know, I with everybody I sit with, I always say it's very important to establish the most important relationship, and that is the relationship with yourself. For some, that's a natural, easy occurrence. For others, it could be the most far removed, uncomfortable, and disgusting thing. So this is the first thing we need to do. We need to get in there, because there's obviously a problem. If you're living your life for other people all the time, constantly, you're not living. You're not self-serving. It's got to be self-service first. You know, I always say, you know, if you haven't got it to give, you can't give it. So you've got to come home. You've got to be in tune. You've got to transcend yourself, and then everything starts happening. And this is the beauty about what I do, and I find it quite empowering.
So, is numerology, can numerology be used generically? Because what I got from what you said then, that it's very personal. So when you start to do it generically, then it can get mixed up and stuff.
It's like anything that is interpretable. It's like, you know, when you get art and you look at an artist tries to tell you and dissect or interpret what's in front of them. It's always open to interpretation, because it's all about perception. So, like many things, then you're down to the reader. It's down to the person that's doing the translating, because some things can get lost in translation. The thing is, it's great to see something that's, you know, a bigger, broader picture. It's very, very interesting to see things that are working as a collective. If you want to talk about a collective consciousness, then astrology is the way forward. You know, we talk about epochs, we talk about big power shifts that change our consciousness. I mean, and again, the interesting thing here is if you talk about a great year or an epoch change, it's a number that's it's about 2,700 or something or other. But the last time we had a great epoch change was the time that Taurus shifted into Pisces, or I think it was Aries shifted into Pisces. So you had that fish symbol, which everyone associates with Christianity. But basically that fish symbol was the time of Pisces, and there was a shift in our human consciousness. So the way we think as a collective changed. And this is where we're in a state of flux, because you've heard that saying, I think it's from the great musical Hair, isn't it? I think, you know, this is the dawning of the age of Aquarius. So we're moving out of Pisces, we're coming into Aquarius. So this massive shifting consciousness. Well, Aquarius, if you know Aquarian people, they're very strong-willed and free-minded and free-spirited. So this became the sexual revolution. So many believe that this consciousness change started beginning, or this movement began in the late 60s, you know, but it started to kick in earnest. Well, the most potent force in the universe is our sexual force. It's the thing that we get out of bed for in the morning. But as you can see, it doesn't take rocket science to see that, you know, at the moment, something that's supposed to be so beautiful and natural and powerful is being abused, and it's taken to the extremes. And basically, I mean, now you have to watch what you put on your computers for your children, because it's absolutely everywhere. Yeah. And, you know, sex has become, if you like, demonized, you know, but in its rightful place, in its right context, it's a beautiful thing. It's a very powerful thing. And as creative beings, we are creative forces. We're extremely powerful creative forces, and our sexual nature and our sexual energy is very potent. And a lot of our misdemeanors in the way we live are down to the misuse or our irresponsible use of our sexual nature. So when you talk about generics and consciousness, that's what we're kind of governed by. So when I talk about numbers, yes, everything that's monikered and named and that's got letters in it will have an energy that's relatable. That's what makes it interesting. You know, people are only really interested in what's basically in front of their faces. You know, as much as we like to feel that we're connected, we're obviously connected to this infinite source, the one, the being, the oneness. We've become very detached from it. You know, we are living lives duality, separate from it. Okay, so before you can get an idea of that concept, you really do need to know you and how you fit in to that oneness. So these are quite big concepts we're talking about.
Yeah, I was explaining that in one of the previous video about knowing thyself, and you know, the closer we get to know ourselves, and the closer we get to know the divine or God, or, you know, it's so
well put, because basically, in essence, that's exactly what we're talking about. The closer you become to yourself, your one, you become closer to the one. It becomes that simple. You start seeing the splendor, the glory, and the majesty from the oneness. And people think that's quite selfish, but it's absolutely quite selfless, because you can do more good and more positive from being centered. You know, I think we've been brought up with the conception that self-love is a bad thing. You know, we're not talking about being conceited here. We're talking about self-love, self-expression, self-appreciation, self-respect. And then you get self-control, self-enhancement, development, self-awareness.
And that's what, when you break down, you know, we broke down self-mastery earlier. When I put self-mastery in, sorry about the colouring on my screen, for some reason it's got a little bit of a blue tint. Oh, it's changed a bit. There's when I looked up self-mastery, that's what came up with self-control, and that's what I liked, because that's what basically my work is about, is helping people. Because like what you said just now, temptation is everywhere around us in this day and age, and when we start getting caught up in that, that's when we start getting out of balance. So I like the fact that, like, to be honest, like since the 60s possibly, self-control or self-mastery, maybe self-control has been maybe a dirty word, because it's like all about free love and free spirit and stuff, you know. But actually, if we can start to control that aspect of ourselves, then like I spent a couple of years, as you know, when we spoke, I spent a couple of years as a celibate monk, and during that time, it really had some profound realizations, because I was using the sexual energy, still using sexual, even though you're not having intercourse, you're still using sexual energy, but you're using it in a creative way. So it was it was a profound experience, and that's why, like, but then there's one of the schools of thought in the Vedas is that the monks, they use their sexual energy and it goes up into the brain and it manifests like that. And then the grihastas, or the family, the householders, because they're in a marriage, their energy goes down and out and creates children, and it goes out into the world, whereas they're coming out, it's going in a different direction. Basically, the householders are going down, and the celibate ones are going up, and it's coming through like the third eye, for example. But
if you use that sexual energy tantrically, you're awakening awakening your faculties. These faculties that some people are using subconsciously and they're not aware of, but this is the difference. You know, you're using a lot of abilities, you're just not aware you're using these abilities. They become dormant, or they're ineffective because you're not using efficiently. But people that know how to awaken these abilities, well, this is what Christ alludes to. Christ alludes to us still being not quite human yet. We haven't quite developed our human bodies. We're still basically intellectual animals. We haven't quite evolved yet. We're still where we haven't actually gone to the next level. And the next level was being able to control your sexual energy. You prana through breath of life, through control, through self-awareness, self-management.
Yeah.
This is what alchemy, the ancient alchemists were alluding to, turning base metal into gold. It was just that transmutation. And this is what it is. It's the transmutation of our basic selves into our super potential, our super being, our super highest forms of ourselves, our super consciousness, if you like.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the first, if you like, this is the introduction, the first rung on the ladder. Be aware of what you're capable of. Be aware of the way you're geared, the way you think, because some people are geared physically, some people are geared emotionally, some people, centered emotionally, some people are geared spiritually. We have, if you like, three brains. One brain can be more predominant than the others. It's just striking the balance between the three. Okay, and this is where biorhythms come in, because any particular cycle that you're in will govern one of those particular brain centers, if you like. So you can be out of kilter emotionally, but really, really physical. And you could be really, really spiritually centered, but out of kilter physically. So it's just finding the right balance and the alignment.
Mm-hmm.
And making that relevant to what you're doing day to day.
Yeah, of course. And that's what, on a day-to-day basis, I'm just in the process of formulating my unique branded solution, if you like, or it's, to do with the mind and the body and the spirit, and bringing them on, because with the naturopathic nutrition and the mind stuff I do, and then with the spiritual stuff on top, it gives a nice overall balance. Because I've noticed that if I wasn't working on all of them in the past, then, like you said, one or two may be really focused and the other was way out of kilter, so then it ended up throwing the others back out, so right. Yeah, it's really important to work on them all, I believe. So
this is the great thing. So where you are centered, and then if you know where the phase you're coming into, or the cycle you're coming into, how to best work with what you've got and your best attributes. It's almost like knowing the best foot to put forward.
Awesome. So let's just speak about some of the. So there may be people out there listening to this now that they want to work. They'd like to work with you. They'd like to have a one-to-one with you, or even there's somebody that's seen something in you and they want to do something. How do they contact you? How do they get in touch with you? What do they do?
At the moment, it's the best way of getting hold of me, because I've never been as busy as I've been. All of a sudden, I just kind of hit this plateau. Well, I haven't hit a plateau. I'm just on this steep curve at the moment where I've become so busy. I'm always working. But I've got a web page, if you like. It's www.thearithmystic.com, and I can easily be reached through that. Or on Facebook, I'm the Arithmystic on Facebook. There you go. That's probably the two easiest ways of getting hold of me, or leaving a message. And my turnaround's pretty good. I always endeavour to return within 24 hours.
Awesome. Yeah, and that was exactly what happened to me, and I was quite surprised, because I was I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to get hold of you, because I'd seen stuff. It was quite mystical even getting in touch with you, but when I got in touch, I was landed when you phoned back. I was like, yeah, brilliant. And we managed to hook up and get the sessions in. A session with me, session with my wife. Is awesome. And so I don't know if you'd want to do this after the call or during the call. I've also got a book coming out called The Path Back to Happiness, and I don't know if we did that when we were. Don't know if you want to give another example to people online, or if you want to do it later. I'm
just going to plug you in again, 1 second, because any time now the energy could go on my pad. So let me just plug this in, and I've got the energy in it. That's right. I do zap energy from batteries. So
yeah.
There we go.
If I'm in a mood or something like that, or if I'm not in the best mood, should we say? I put myself out there as I'm the balanced spiritual guy, but sometimes I'm out of balance. And when I am out of balance, I can do that. I'll touch a light switch, and the lights will blow and stuff. You know what I mean? So I know what you mean when you say.
My phone batteries. When I've so I've done a lot of talking. If I've done a lot of talking in a day and I'm holding my phone, I'll zap the battery from the phone. It just goes. It's peculiar. Right now, I haven't got I haven't got my lovely assistant with me at the present, so you're going to have to take my word as I'm writing. I'll explain while I'm writing. So this is the title of your book. This is the title of your book, yes?
Yeah, it's called The Path Back to Happiness.
Back to, is it the number 2 or is it the word 2?
The word 2.
T-O?
Yeah.
Back to happiness.
But I'm open to changing it.
Double P.
It's not out there yet,
Right.
but it's
is it H-A-P-P-I-N-E-I?
Yeah.
H-A-P-P-I-N-E-S-S.
I-N-E-S-S, yeah.
Back to happiness. A real back to basics. That's great. So we got here. So back is 2, 1, 3, 2. 2 is 4 and 7. Happiness is 5, 1, 8, 8, 1, 5, 5, 3, 3. And then what we do is, now you'll get some number systems when they'll add this all up, and then they'll have one figure at the end that they work with. I don't believe it works that way. Each letter, each word, each letter has its own energy. Each word has an energy that's a greater sum of its total parts. And then when you bring them all together, you've got another collective set of energies. By adding them all together, you lose all that information. There's so much information there. And this is what happens when you do it with people's names. There are different things going on. And if you overlook that, if you run over it, you miss those little intricacies. You miss those little intra or contra indicators, those little clashes sometimes, or reinforcers or harmonies, or those little subtle things that could be saying something else. And these are the things that make up our persona and our psyche. Okay, so back to happiness. 2, 3, 6, 7, 8. No nonsense, the truth. 2, 11th. It's a free flow conduit for energy. 5, 6, 4, 14, 14, 21, 22, 32, 35, 38, which is 11 again. 3 and 8 becomes 11. So we've got 11, 22, 30. This is a very insightful, informative book. It's quite a clinical book, really, in many ways. This is going to strip the nuts and bolts. This is a stripped back book. It's very expressive, but it's done in a very clinical and informative way. It's almost like a manual, if you like. There's a lot about this. Very, very appealing. It's very insightful. And also, this is a very assertive book. So it's a real pay attention book.
Right.
1, 7, 5, 6, 7. 14, 15, but again, a nice use of humor where needed. Yeah, have you used lots of personal experiences in this book?
All personal experiences.
Yeah, because this number here for the soul of this book is a love number, but it is based on laughter and humor and real life experiences, because this is the way to convey information, by relating, and that number is a number for relation. Okay, 5, 6, 7. 4, 16, 21, 26, 29, 30, 31, 32. So we've got a 5 there. So we've got 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Unusual. This is an unusual and insightful book. And it isn't what people are expecting it to be. This is something that's unusual. This is something that people are going to, they'll read it, and this is something they're going to be thinking about and thinking about and thinking about. This is going to be asking them questions. This is going to be making them, this is almost like CSI on self. Okay. So this is almost as if, you know what, let's break this down. Let's look at why I'm doing this. This is why you're doing this. Why are you doing this? You're doing this because this is something that you've done. This is some memory you've entwined with. This is something that you're reenacting and reliving and rehashing. And you're just using it for a multitude of situations. So this is very insightful. So a very intelligently written book.
Thank you.
Yeah, sharp, insightful. Back to happiness. Are you spelling that too with just a T-O, yeah? It is just a T-O.
Yeah.
Have you published this book yet?
Well, I'm going to self-publish to start with, anyway, and then yeah. So it's not out there yet. They're going for pre-launch soon.
Interesting. I'd like to see how, right? Because obviously, then the most important thing then is the date you launch it.
Okay. Right.
Yeah. But it's like casting something out. You don't want to be casting out a vessel when you've got an incoming tide. It's going to be very difficult to get back out there again. So you want to make sure that that flow is with you. You're embracing and engaging your own personal flow, and then it goes out. because like I said, you don't want to be putting it out there in an end cycle where it's completion. You want to be putting it out there in a cycle where there's new beginnings. And it's a fresh impetus. So this is the bit that you really want to be paying attention to.
So when would that be, MCO? Come on, you put me out of my misery. Are you going to charge me for another session or what?
Well, you know, for you, it's all about cycles, isn't it? So we know, when is your birthday, Steve?
3rd of the 8th, 81.
3rd of the 8th.
Yeah.
Okay, so we know that you're going in as an 11. You're in 2017, which is going to quickly become 2018 at the dawn of the solstice. Okay, 2018 then becomes 11. So it's a 22-4. So this cycle that you were in was in your expressive cycle. You know, this is good fortune, it's good fun, it's very networky, it's very communicative. The cycle you're coming into is your work cycle, but this is a 22, so it's all about the details. So you're now putting something into motion that's got potential to have, you know, arms, legs, head, personality. It's always going to be done in increments and in waves. So it's just a step by step. So don't expect everything to come rushing back in return. You go out in small steps, test the water, small bits at a time, test the market, you know, see how it, you know, the cover is working for you, see how things are working for you, make tweaks and adjustments, and then it's a gradual, it's going to be a process.
Okay.
Real action, the real movement's going to take place following July. So this July, yes, it's a good time to get it out there, but it's just to test the waters, you know, give people lots of copies, get some feedback, get, you know, tweaks where you need to tweak it. And then the real movement and the excitement and the pace will gather the following July. Okay,
great. So it'll be like a year of testing the water and stuff, and then when it really gets going, it will be like a year's time. Okay.
This is still good. This is, like I said, it's just a bit of work to do yet. You've still got a bit of work to do yet with this. It's just testing the water, but it will find its feet and it will get its own momentum. Okay, it's just you're just developing its personality. I mean, this is a big energy 22. It's a real grandiose energy. So this is a love. As long as you keep going with it, don't get disheartened. You know, don't doubt. You will doubt. Do not doubt. Just keep it simple. Keep it working. Keep listening to the feedback. Always go with your intention, your first intention. That's the thing that you always want to be working with. I've already said to you, you've been a 3. You're quite fortunate anyway. Yeah. 22 is basic. Its basic foundation is the number 4, which is all about effort. You know, people find that particular cycle quite hard work. Well, if you're prepared to work and do the difficult things, later on, life won't be such a grind and effort, an effort. 22 is a special number. It's a very peaceable number. It's a number for construction and engineering. This is why I said, you'll put it out there, but there will be still some work to do. But all the work will be beneficial. Everything's going to be for the greater good.
Awesome. Wow. So I'm hoping that from those 2 examples that the viewers have seen, that you get like a good insight into what Psio does, because it's phenomenal. Like, I haven't met anybody that does anything quite like what Psio does. Like I said before, I've been to loads of New Age fairs, seen lots of mediums, etc. But I've never seen anybody do it quite in a way like Psio does, and I think it's really unique. And yeah, I wish you all the best, Psio, in getting out there in a big way. I'd really like to see that. And thank you so much for sharing all of your wisdom and knowledge with us today. It's been really insightful, and thank you. And sorry you got held up in traffic and stuff and you missed the...
My apologies. It's very embarrassing actually, but so I was racing to get here. So apologies if I've inconvenienced anyone. It's been an absolute pleasure sitting with you, and I know you've got such great energy as well, Stephen. It's been it's been warmly received and appreciated. Thank you for taking the interest and the time out to have me on your in your company.
Yeah, no, it's an absolute pleasure. And I was telling my wife after we met the first time, I felt like I knew you. That I feel like there's a soul connection there. So it's sometimes with people as soon as you meet them, as soon as you speak to them, that you strike up a connection, and you're one of those persons. So I'm really grateful to have met you, and hopefully to continue. Whether it's a reason season or a lifetime, who knows? Let's continue to keep good. And anybody who wants to get an Psio, if you can't get hold of him through Arithmystic or whatever, just drop me a message on here on YouTube or on Facebook, and I'll put you in touch with him as well. So I highly recommend that you get in touch with him and have a one-to-one session with him, because there's nothing quite like the way that he connects with you. It's phenomenal. And especially if you've got anything going on, if you're getting married, if you've got any babies coming, anything to do with numbers, events like that, Psio's your man. So, Psio, thank you so much, mate. Really appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Yeah, namaste.
Namaste. Pleasure. Thank you very much, Steve. Thank you.
Okay, thanks a lot. Take care.
Bye-bye now. Bye-bye.